Hello, my name is Vic Gildress, and I'm here today to help myself and help you um, try and live a better life through understanding how we tick, how you tick. And today's title is Your Forgotten Gift, Humanness. The reason I'm talking about that is because it is a thing that we take our senses for granted, possibly take our body for granted, and perhaps because we focus a lot on what we're thinking about all the time. So, how I came about this was an in the shower thought. And what I mean by that is it's fresh thought. A lot of our thought is stale. We are thinking about our thoughts, the stuff that we runs through our mind all the time, and they are like processed thoughts. Catherine Heath, who is a three principles practitioner, she mentioned that processed food is not good for you and processed thoughts are not good for you too. So in this session, in this podcast, I am hoping to get you away from all your thinking into what is already working for you all the time, your body, your senses, and to look at that, because as well as what I suppose the principles focus on, which is beyond thought, which is our spirit, universal intelligence, which is always there to help us. Well, our senses are there to help us as well, and our body is there to help us. So that's why that is the shift of focus here. So this aspect is on our humanness, and our humanness, it because we're human beings, we have good and bad, and so and it's not really bad. What I mean by that is because we have fears and insecurities and worries, and we fret about things, then we can get defensive, we can mull things over, we can get angry, we can get upset. And all that contributes to not helping ourselves, because in one sense, what does it do? It just produces bad chemicals in our bodies. When I say bad chemicals, they're there for a reason, but when we overdo the bad thinking, we over exercise our body's ability to produce cortisol and adrenaline. And when that is constantly on the go, then it just wears us down and doesn't do a lot of good. It's there for a purpose. It's there to help us when we get stressed, and we don't want to be stressed all the time. So the other side of that is to look at getting away from our ego thoughts and noticing them when they appear, to our humanness. Now, our humanness can be bad. It can be also, that is why we're here. That is why, in the end, we thrive. We're built to thrive. And human beings, us, we all have the capacity. It's inbuilt in us, as well as our innate health. It's inbuilt in us to want to do good, want to help others. We know that we fail. We know that we are frail. But we also, our greatest strength is our humanness. Because we can talk about spirit and we can talk about form, but we're here in form. God or creation give us this ability to be here, and because of that, we are steering our ship, as it were, and can do things in this world because we are physically here. And that begets the question that I ask myself, and it'd be nice, what I'm saying is that we perhaps should all ask the question, why are we here? What is the purpose of it all? What is our purpose? And I can tell you one thing, because we are alive, that is our purpose. We are unique. Each of us is unique, and each of us, through biology and what have you, it's a million to one chance that we're here. We're given that chance. We are unique, and that's life, and life begets life. In other words, what I'm saying is that our humanness is in us to do good, and we can do good. But often we forget about that because we get stuck in the in our ego thoughts, based on our psychology, our upbringing, where we've been the victim, where we've been let down, where we've been cheated. But we're all the same. You've got to remember that, is that the principle showed us that we, each of us, have mind, consciousness and thought. And that mind, which is the universal intelligence, but let's focus here on the thought and consciousness, is that when we have bad thoughts, we get upset, but we can also have good thoughts. And we, because of our consciousness is always aware of these thoughts. And it's like training your dragon. Our dragons can breathe fire and kill people, or our dragon can help people. And I don't know, in the Harry Potter thing, swift around and help everybody, and the puff the dragon, and it's nice. Yes, in other words, we do train our dragon, we do train our consciousness. And when our consciousness shifts away from our thinking onto our body, for example, I mean, take our body. We take it for granted. It's like walking along with a friend, and because it's always there with us, always, 24/7 helping us, doing its best. And I know you may think, well, my body's not so good and all what have you, but it does its best. It's always there. It doesn't. Well, what I'm saying is, I think we can often take it for granted. And it's a bit like walking along with that friend, where we never say thank you for being a friend. I know it can be difficult sometimes, and I'm difficult sometimes, but thank you very much. And so when I used to do meditation, I used to, sorry about these I used to do a body scan, where I got the class, the participants, to do a scan of their body and notice their body. And that did a lot of good, because we just take it for granted, and that is nice. I'm sure that the body knows when it's been acknowledged, because that we have become conscious of our body. And certainly science has proved this, that when we focus on particular aspects of the body, those aspects of the body react. So it's a symbiotic thing. It's a good return thing. You give and it gives back. So I go back to the question, what really matters. Think about it. We have a phrase, he who dies with the most toys wins. Well, that's just not the truth. People who, there's lots of stories I could give you on this, but people who have basically had tons of stuff, tons of money, tons of fame, would give anything, and to just live an okay life in their mind, to be happy, to be content, to be loved. And that's what it's really all about. So that's what I'm talking about. So don't interfere with your wonderful awareness of life. Say, for example, I'm now going off the body to your senses. So we have the senses of touch, hearing, sound, smell, feeling, as well as a thought. And think about it, when we are not honouring our senses, when, say, for example, we're going on a nice walk and we're thinking about what went wrong at work, or the argument we had with somebody, then all the senses of the smells of the park that we're walking through, the visual thing of the trees, it's just been wasted. We're not honouring our senses at all. Our senses are often bypassed by the fact that we're up in our head with thought about this, thought about. We miss life because we're not going at the pace of life. We're going at the pace of thought. And when thought is busy and hurried, we're just missing out on life, missing out on the wonder that our senses can give to us. So I've talked about the body, I've talked about senses. You can think of all sorts about things with what can go wrong, or put it the other way, what starts to go right when we look to, say, for example, a phrase is walking into the room without your head. So in other words, walking into a room without your judgments, without your thoughts about what you're going to say, what other people are going to say to you, how you're looking, how you're feeling. So all that stuff just gets in the way of actually being yourself. And just try it, because it really works. When you put down your agendas around that all your thoughts have when you're doing stuff, then life becomes much easier and much better, because your intelligence, and I'm talking here about universal intelligence, works better that way, because you're not working through your ego thoughts. But also when you're working through acknowledging your body and acknowledging your senses, so that side of it, our humanness, which we don't focus on in I think in the principles. I mean, it does really, because it mentions that, but I'm just emphasising here that it is our humanness is our forgotten gift, and because we're here. And we, as Sydney Banks said, life is a contact sport, so it's not so easy, it's difficult, that we forget what our body can give us, we forget what our senses give us, because they give us quite a lot. They know what to do for us. Little stories now. I'm thinking of my granddaughter, bless her, who is saying, oh, what can I do about the Gaza Strip? What can I do about what's going on with Russia? I feel as if I'm not able to help. Well, I think the answer I would give to her and to each of us is that the three principles shows that through each of our abilities with mind, consciousness and thought, that we can start ourselves one by one, each of us, if we concentrate more on, well, for example, using our humanness of caring and sympathy and loving, wanting to help. When we work from that aspect and put our focus on what we can do in the here and now, starting with ourselves and saying honouring our body more, like in other words, the opposite of low self-esteem is good esteem, or should I say esteem for ourselves, just in the fact that we are all, each of us, miracles. And when we start to focus on the good, because that is our natural way of being, that we can help ourselves, looking after our body, sleep better and all the rest of it, doing what we can there, and it will look after us. So that's what I would say in the that little story about my granddaughter. Another little story about her mother, who is an international consultant, and I haven't. Well, I am not a consultant, and I'm not international, and neither is my other daughter. But we're both lovely, and we all love each other, and so. But she was telling me a story just recently. She's got quite a big job on with a big institution, and it was said, how do we better satisfy the customer? And my daughter mentioned at the meeting, well, if we looked after our staff, who does the job of all that, if we looked after them and considered them, and brought them on as people and honoured them as people, then looking after the customer which is a given, would follow better, because the people who are doing it would be treated better. So again, that is humanness, looking at the people that you've got, and that is often forgotten in business. That it's just a means to an end, a means for shareholders, what have you. But no, the people that provide all that need to be honoured, need to be cared for, just as we need to honour ourselves. Now, so when you've not got that, my daughter has that good edge, but some people have the bad edge, where the first thing that comes into the mind is the politics of it, is what I can get, what might I lose. And I remember years ago when my gran died, and my mother had looked after my gran for many years because she'd had Alzheimer's. But when my gran died, she didn't have a lot of money left. But what my mother said to me was, well, look, there's other people in the family that need to be communicated with here. So we had a big family gathering, and she gave me the job of she just went into another room, and I talked to the rest of the family about the monies and the things that had been left by my gran, and I suppose, you put it bluntly, requested that they give a larger portion of that to my mother, who would look after my gran, and that would they be happy accepting what was left, and they rightly did, because they're so really the humanness in this, instead of wanting what they could have argued for, what the etc., they'd not done the job, and they knew it, and so that is being human and accepting things and being gracious. That's the word I'm looking for. So that was nice to be complicit in this kind of humanness and realise that I was grateful that my mother saw that I could accomplish that, and that was in me. Now, other things like that with my brother. When my brother was alive, we always argued, as brothers do sometimes. And one stage, I wanted to pay for him a holiday. And I did, because I thought he would think I was loading it over him, trying to be a clever dick. And so I never did that, for all those basically wrong thoughts, thinking of the politics of it, thinking of myself, where would he think of me, and what have you. And then he got basically where he couldn't go abroad because he was too ill, but he went on brief holidays with his wife. And so what I did do is I rang through to a hotel that he was staying at in England, and put a bottle of whiskey behind the bar for him. He liked a whiskey. And, honestly, he contacted me after the holiday, and he kept going on about it and going. He was so chuffed. And I could have cried, because it just was the little things that really kind of did something. And so, sometimes, fools rush in, maybe we should, our humanness should kind of take the forefront. In other words, what I'm saying is we should get past our ego and get past our pride. Now, another story, and then I'll stop with the stories. When I was a little boy, I don't know, I'll be 8 years of age, my mum and dad had been out to a club, and I was downstairs, sat by the fire, when my mum and dad came in, and my mother was very upset with my father. Now, I won't say my father was drunk, because he couldn't afford to drink, so he might have had a pint or two. But my mother was going on about how bad a father he was. Now, don't get me wrong, this sounds like bad parenting. She was telling my father off in front of me, saying, look at your father, isn't he this, isn't he that, he's a bad man. Now it's bad parenting, but let me just say, my mum and dad were the best parents ever. But we all lose it. We all get on the wrong side of ourselves. And as a phrase in our family used to be, well, you've seen your backside and you don't like the look of it. And that particular night, my mother certainly had. And she was criticising my father, and my father was just looking helpless. And this was instinctive. I just turned around and said, don't do that. I love my daddy. I really do love my daddy. And I started crying. And my dad picked me up and he started crying. Now, my dad had been brought up in an orphanage. It was shunned a bit because he was a quarter caste, living in a town which was mainly white orientated, so he had a difficult life. And I think that in that instance, when he wasn't shown love, and I give him love, naturally, I didn't intend to say what I said, but he was my dad and I did love him. I think he had a realisation in that moment that he was loved. And how can I put it? That there was always after that, such a strong bond. I was going to say beyond death's bond, but I could certainly, like a twin can feel its opposite. I could always sense my father. I still can, and that's a lovely thing, and that's because of love. So that's my story about fostering humanness, thoughts, and the power that gives. So that's what I'm saying is Yes, we can look to universal intelligence to help us when we get our thoughts out of the way, but what is always helping us there in this physical life is our humanity, our humanness. So I'm saying, as I'm finishing off here, is to expand your consciousness in this area, because it does expand once it picks up on it. Once it picks up on your intention to be that kind of bring to the forefront your humanness to help others, well, to help yourself, and become more the real you of you, which is our humanness, and just spread that gift out to others, because it is a forgotten gift. So, I've gone on a bit again. Thank you very much for listening, and I love you. Take care. Thank you.